Hello, everyone. How are you feeling today? Not falling asleep after lunch? OK, so we'll try to keep you awake for the session today. My colleague Newman and I will be talking about team synergy and how we can sustain and improve it over time. So have you ever been in a place where you've got the best people in your team, but you're still having problems with team morale, outcomes are not being achieved? And we've been there, we've seen a lot of that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the problems, how we can improve, and then sustain this improvement over time. So let's start with why we want the team to perform. It's all about business agility. So according to the Agile Business Organization, it is all about speed, adaptability, and better outcomes, and doing so with positive intent. I want to emphasize the positive intent bit here because it is about understanding that your people have a good reasons to do the things that they do, and not jumping to judge, but seek to understand, and therefore creating a safe environment for your team. And that will form a lot of the basis of the talk that we talk about today. So if you need business agility, you will need team agility. And that means that the team has to move together as one with the same mindset, upholding the same set of values, the same principles, and practicing the same thing in the team.
OK. I wanted to start with a very overly simplified mental model of how Agile software engineering team creates value. So you, as a business, spot a problem. Okay, either a ministry or authority spots a problem, and then starts to brainstorm a possible solution as a hypothesis to solve the problem. You then build it. Basically, you write code, and then you ship it so that it can be used, right? Now, there is a lot goes in this journey. There's a lot of effort involved, and it kind of produces tangible output. An output or artifact. In common terms, we call that as deliverables, right? And here the hypothesis is that these output will lead you to the desired outcome, or it'll solve the problem, right? It will lead you to an outcome where the citizens are more engaged, or the problem is solved, or your business have more money in the form of revenue. It's also possible that maybe it did not solve the entire problem, or maybe the definition of the problem has changed, or maybe it created a new problem, right? And the cycle continues, like it goes into the loop. Now, there is a lot that goes into producing the output, right? There's a lot of effort involved. And it's important to note that the way you do this affects the outcome. And a lot of time, the output does not lead to the outcome, but it leads to undesirable outcome that the business or the team did not anticipate it. Outcomes such as maybe the customers are further disengaged, or there is high failure rate and there are more problems in production and it costs you more. The teams are burnt out because now they are doing overtime because they were chasing deadlines, and it goes on and on.
So why do we get undesirable outcome? And let's acknowledge the big elephant in the room, is that the Agile teams are not out of the box. You don't get the best people and expect them to perform. There are many problems and blockers that get in the way. So the first thing is, look at the individuals that make up the team. So first of all, you might have people from different vendors. They might come in with their own mindset, their own ways of working. You might have new joiners coming in with their own context, but not having a good onboarding experience into the project. You might even have projects where roles and responsibilities and expectations are not clear. And for example, end-to-end tests, who owns it? Is it the QA? Is it the dev? Does anyone know? So again, within the team, it's important. And all of these contributing to the fact that people are misaligned. They don't know what they need to be doing within the team, again, impacting the team performance. And the other problem is that we have so many flavors of Agile. We've got Kanban, Scrum, and less. and many more. And that then leads to problems in the team. They all come with their own practices and rituals. And the team end up thinking, which ones should we start focusing on? Which rituals, which ceremonies should we put in place? And again, this means that you forget about being agile. You're just doing agile by setting up the practices, by focusing on all the rituals. And then another very, very important factor is the culture within the team. Let's start with command and control. So if the boss comes in and said, okay, we're going to go live on the 1st of December, I want daily report, no more tests, no more pairing, and the team then goes on to a death march, and there is no capacity to actually suggest any improvement. Then there is the blame culture. So you might hear things like, okay, we didn't meet our deadline because John here estimated a 5-pointer for a story, and it took him twice as long. So if I were John, I will start to feel like, okay, I'm going to overestimate everything, and I won't sign up for anything complex because I'm going to be blamed if something goes wrong. And then there is a 10x engineering culture as well, right? So this is where, let's pick on John again. So John now gets commended and get put on a pedestal to say that, hey, he completed the 3 Excel stories in the last sprint. So let's give him a pay rise. He's done an awesome job. But the team members will feel pressurized. They will feel like they need to perform like John. They will start foregoing collaboration and trying to focus on just completing stories, focusing on pushing their own performance. Again, that damages your team synergy. And then lastly, the overly hierarchical culture where I have an idea to improve customer experience. I'm going to raise it, but 3 months later, nothing happened because it's now stuck somewhere for approval. Somebody is looking at it at different levels, and so what will happen is that I will not want to be suggesting anything new anymore because nothing's going to happen. So all of these, again, contribute to trust erosion, preventing the team from collaborating, and preventing autonomy, therefore choking your innovations and agility of the team.
So the agile teams are not out of the box, and the synergy needs to be built and evolve over the period of time. Right? The foundation of the synergy starts with building a team social contract. These are a set of agreements that shows how the team plans to work with each other and how does the group work as a whole. Right? Starts by having a common and the shared understanding within the team, like what is expected out of each and every role within the team. Every role understand what is their accountability, and they take the ownership for doing that. There is also a common and a shared language for the team to describe work. Now, Thao mentioned about the agile frameworks. Like it's fine to, and everyone does that. You have to, right? It's fine to adopt one of the agile framework that suits for your situation, but it's the team's accountability to ensure that they make this explicit on how they plan to leverage the terminology and the practices, and how does it translate into the value, and not really blindly just following it as a prescription, right? There is also a very healthy and collaborative setup, be it maybe remote or be it physical, a setup that allows everyone to get together, allows everyone to share, learn, and in general have fun. Now it's very common, like with thanks to COVID, like it's remote working. It's common for people to go back in their shadows and go into their own cohesion and silos, hide in the meeting, video off. I mean, for whatever reason, right? Not everyone speaks up, again, for varying reason, like you don't speak if your boss is in the meeting. But again, the crux here is that in this contract, you can try to experiment with various techniques and make it explicit. Things like that will encourage the collaboration, like things like rotating your stand-up facilitation, or rotating your co-leads for maybe leading some important ceremonies like planning for showcase or having a conversation with an important stakeholder, or just like having this weekly lightning talks within and just encouraging people to participate and maybe lead into it, right? So breaking that silo. Now the contract also helps you to capture a lot of maybe learnings and maybe the action from your past reflection from your retrospect. Like reflections such as every meeting should have a purpose, it should have an agenda, it should have a facilitator. Otherwise, we just discard it, right? And there is a way for the team to appreciate each other. There's a way for the team to give feedback to each other. There is a way where team is able to have some focus time and make it explicit to the rest of the organization so that it's clear that the other teams or the organization don't involve them into extracurricular meetings. And again, it doesn't stop here, right? The intent here is like, again, there is more complexity. You're working in an organization where there are other agile teams and their school of thought is very different than yours. The takeaway here is that align to set of agreements, make it explicit, and then find out ways for collaboration. Okay, now the team is able to describe work, but do they have a shared understanding of what they're working towards? Do they know what does the value look like? Do they know the feature they're working on? Why is it a priority? Why is it in scope? And what would happen if they kill the feature? Like if they don't do the feature, what would happen? Like it's important for the team to have this shared goal and vision and also understand how and who is prioritizing work for them. Like just blindly chasing deadlines or accepting more work to be put in your backlog is one major reason for the undesirable outcome that we kind of talked about, right? And then lastly, setting up a culture that prioritizes certain foundational principles. Principles like practices are not meant to be mandated. Like practices have an objective. It's not supposed to be followed like a process. And everyone in the team understands the objective. And the team reflects if a certain practice is even giving value, right? It's okay. It's very common that maybe a practice doesn't give value, and that's a good feedback for the team that either the practice needs some fabrication or maybe the team misunderstood the objective or the objective was lost, right? There are more foundational principles, right? Feedback. The team is working on the incremental change, and every change is providing feedback for improvement. Simplicity is the foundation for creating solution that is easy to change. Again, embracing change needs to be acknowledged. The requirement is bound to change, right? And so is the value, the definition of the value. But again, not embracing change at the cost of maybe working extra hours or overtime. There needs to be this mechanism of negotiating, right? If you're bringing in change, something needs to go out of your backlog, right? And then lastly, quality. Quality, again, is not tied to a title in the team. It's not the responsibility of the quality engineer. Quality spans across the dimension of software engineering. It's about quality of your requirement, quality of your estimation, quality of your code, quality of your documentation, quality of your coverage, like it spans across. And quality is one key for getting towards the desired outcome.
So if you have a good team contract and good practices in place that help you get to the outcome, how do you sustain this? And the answer is we measure, we improve, and we repeat that process. And what do we measure? So I'll bring back the mental model that Norman talked about earlier. So what you want to measure is the outcome and the impact. So it could be your 4 key metrics, it could be your business metrics, it could be things that are important to your team. You measure these, and you see what practices contribute to helping you to improve these metrics, and you work out what needs to be changed, what needs to be improved in your practices, and then you examine the impact that all of this cycle has given you. Are you helping the customers being happier? Are your developers happier? Is the team morale improving? So all of these is forming one cycle, and you continuously iterate on top. So as an example, right? If you want to improve the team's, if you want to improve the customer's confidence in your software, then you might say that, okay, we need to improve this through responding to their feedback faster. And that means that you might need to improve your deployment frequency. And in order to improve your deployment frequency, you then have to look at, have you got the right automated tests in place? Have you got the right practices in place to help you get to that outcome? So aligning the team together on the outcomes and working together to improve as a team is the key message we want to put forward. And so To sum it all up, this is a very complex diagram, but one key thing that I want you to take away is, do you know the outcomes of your team? What are the improvements that you would want to do or put in place in your team to help you get to that outcome? And how do you work together as a team to get to that outcome? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.